Hello, and for those that are still alive after the weekend, this is Bodied, a Cloud9 fan cast. I am Havokpus, your host. Along with me is frozencreek. How are you, Frozen? How are you
Hey,
holding up?
I'm holding up. What was the worst part about it was I was sitting in the Final Four in Minneapolis, and I saw us get up 2-0, so I was following it throughout the basketball games because I was at them, and
Right.
then I knew once it went to Game 5, I was like, I have a bad feeling about this,
Oh, as soon
and
as as soon as we lost Game 3, I'm like, okay, this isn't good. And
well,
then
um,
yeah,
or so I saw. I eventually got the notification that we lost 3-2, and then I was like, "Oh crap! I have a really bad feeling about this basketball game now." So Michigan State lost in the Final Four, and Cloud9 lost in semifinals, all in about an hour span. So that was my Saturday.
your precious basketball jinxes Frozen. That's what did it.
Yeah. Then I had to drive 9.5 hours back on Sunday from
Oh my god, that
Minneapolis. It was
sounds
not ideal.
awful.
It was not
So,
an
so
ideal.
the whole trip you're just like sad and depressed, and you have
Yep.
to like be in a car for 9 hours.
Yep, it was not an ideal Saturday, but I had a blast at the Final Four. It just sucks that
Well, at
we
least you had
lost.
fun.
Yeah, it was fun despite the big losses, and I had to go back and actually watch the games, knowing what happened, which was probably
Yeah.
even worse.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that towards the end of our episode. First, just a quick little reminder, newsish thing. Cloud9 CSGO will be participating in Blast Pro Miami this weekend. This is with the latest of many upon many iterations of CS:GO, with Cajun B as the newest member to rotate in after Kiyoshima has left, and Vice as our temporary fifth person. I'm not even sure if he's going to be staying as a fifth person, or if by the time this tournament ends he's gone. I don't know. Um, but hopefully the team will at least do decently. I honestly don't have any expectations for CS:GO anymore because of how difficult this roster has been to manage. It looks like.
I mean, it's not entirely fair, but I'm not expecting them to win in anything. I'm just expecting them to
No, yeah,
come out
that's
and hopefully perform.
that's what I'm saying. I think that my issue is just that the team has been at this revolving door of people, and so there you just can't expect anything because who knows? Maybe the people that we have will perform well or they don't, and it kind of doesn't matter because after a couple tournaments, we're probably going to be losing someone and then bringing another stand in anyway. So, at least to me, being kind of pessimistically looking at it, I'm just not really that jazzed about CS:GO anymore, just because of all the roster issues and the fact that no one's going to be staying there super long. So I think, all in all, it doesn't really matter. Um, at least to me. Uh, uh,
Uh, I'm hoping they do well. So I'm hoping to catch a couple games, so I can come back and I either try to be optimistic or just go full blown pessimistic. But I would like to see a couple games first because either way, no matter what happens, it still is a newer roster, so there are going to be growing pains, even if they're perpetual because it's been a new roster every 6 months. So we'll
yeah,
have to see.
I mean, it's not like I don't want the team to do well. I want the team to do well. It's just, uh, you know, it's very difficult to cheer on a team when they have problems like this. But I'm hoping they can at least do well. We'll see. we'll definitely report on it as stuff happens. But we don't have a lot to talk about. I guess the next thing would be Overwatch. The London Spitfire had a great 2-0 week. They played against the Florida Miami. Florida, that's not their name.
A mayhem.
Yes, I was going to say that next. They played against the Florida Mayhem and the Atlanta Reign. And I got to say, the team looked a lot better. Coming into this was the first week of Stage 2, wasn't it?
Yes, I believe so.
Yes. I think the team looks a lot better. I think the meta has shifted a bit more towards our favor. The GOATS comps are still kind of being used, but it's sort of this... It's at this place where, like, Winston GOATS is being used a lot more, as well as there are situations where you can, if you want to, go for a more DPS-focused comp. So that means Bergering is in the lineup now, playing Brigitte. He's usually always on Brigitte duty. But the team looks a lot better because they have these DPS tools that they can actually work with, as well as I think everyone is more settled in a role that they feel comfortable with. You know, when Bergering was on Zarya, he looked really uncomfortable. But then, you know, Prophet's on Zarya, so now it's fine. I guess what I'm trying to say is everything feels a bit better within the game, as well as with just the who's playing what.
Yeah, I feel a lot more confident if the meta switches up just a little bit, like we've seen. If we can get Gesture onto Winston, I think that we're in a really good place for jumping into at least the stage playoffs, which could almost mean us jumping into playoffs for the overall season 2. But
Yeah,
we're still one game back.
Yeah, I think we do still need to. There's still some stuff that needs to be tested out. You bring up Winston. I think that's a really good point because there was a picture that I saw looking at gesture stats on Winston versus Reinhardt, and on Winston he's really really good, and I think he's even in the top percentile for a few stats. Whereas with his Reinhardt, he's close to the bottom, and that's a really big disparity, and that's something I don't think you want to see with your main tank, at least because there's literally only 2, maybe 3 if you count Hammond, main tanks. So like, if your main tank's really good with one champion but not good at another, it makes it, I think, kind of difficult to function when metas swing like we saw in Stage 1 and then versus Stage 2. But I think it is good that he is able to access Winston a lot more now, because I think it does give him a lot more comfort, and he can perform a lot better because of it.
Oh yeah, and it's great news going into a match against the Fusion next week, who are actually one game above us in the season playoffs, giving us a chance to jump above them if we have a good week. So if we can,
plus I think it's
pull out a couple games.
Yeah, plus I think it's good facing off against the Philadelphia Fusion, because the Mayhem and the Reign have been kind of like low tier opponents, and it's great that we beat them 2-0, but I think we need to see how the team does being challenged by stronger and stronger teams, and maybe we can get a better look at how the Spitfires specifically perform at least within this stage.
Yeah, and it was good to see them beat Atlanta last week, just due to the fact that London was tied with them. And the win over them put us at 5-4, and then Atlanta at 4-5. So that I think it hopefully is going to start to show that we're in maybe like the second tier of teams, or maybe like that third tier. But there's a huge cluster right now at 6-3 for the season. So if we can jump up into that second tier, I'm going to start to feel a lot better about the long-term hopes for the season.
Yeah, for sure. And like we said, they play the Fusion this weekend, so
Yep, that is on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So keep your eyes open. It's the first game of the day, and that is actually our only game for the week.
yeah, I think this is another week of only one game, but it should be good. I'm hoping that the team is ready.
Yeah, I think they should be. They have all week to prepare for one game.
Yeah.
They played Atlanta on Sunday. They were the second game of the day, so there's been more than enough time to practice and prepare. But Philly has a game on Thursday, so hopefully that means that they don't have quite as much prep time.
Yeah, for sure.
On the quick turn around.
And speaking of prep time, Frozen, the Overwatch League in 2020 is looking to start geolocation and physically have the teams move and play in their cities. And there's an interesting article at Action Esports about it. If the listeners want to check it out, but essentially it talks about the goods and bads, and what can kind of happen with geolocation. I definitely think it's a mixed bag. On the one hand, our team can finally connect truly with our London fans. Like we had with the Grand Gala towards the end of last year. They can actually visit fans, and the fans can see our team live. Plus, they can maybe travel and see some more fans. I think the problem, at least specifically for London, though, is that there's just not enough European teams to really fight. So is London going to have to be doing a lot of cross-Atlantic travel? I hope not, because that would really suck. And two, travel in general would probably be a pain, I think, having to coordinate that and do all that kind of stuff. So hopefully the league can handle geolocation. I'm a little skeptical on whether it will be a really big hit.
Yeah, I'm a little bit skeptical about how that's going to end up going, just due to the fact that there's a lot of travel time involved in a global esport. Like even flying from the East Coast to the West Coast of America brings a lot of challenges that you wouldn't quite expect to see, and it's going to be kind of weird to see how they stagger the games. Like if you're playing in Seoul, then you're going to Busan, and then you're going to Shanghai. What is like the difference between those games? Because there's a lot of one flight time, customs time, all that is lost practice time, all of that is lost relaxing time that normally you would get. I mean, all of the teams are going to be traveling a lot, but it's going to be interesting to see how sustainable that is, just due to the fact that this is a global esport in that sense.
Yeah, exactly.
When most of if you're doing international competitions in soccer in Europe, you're flying from maybe from Portugal to the Czech Republic, which is probably half the time at worst flying from the Czech Republic to Portugal as it would be flying from London to the United States, or London, especially to a West Coast game, or London to China or Korea. So I don't know.
I think it depends on the division.
It's going to be weird. It's going to be tough, and that's expensive.
I think travel does depend on division, though. I don't think there's going to be a lot of cross-divisional play, I think. So Atlantic teams will play other Atlantic teams, while Pacific teams will play other Pacific teams. But you are right in sort of flying across an ocean to play a team. That does cause a lot of issues. I think if we had more European teams, I think the European teams would benefit most of this, probably because, one, the countries and cities are a lot close together. Two, there aren't really customs issues if you're in the EU. London may have an issue with that, but I don't know. I'm hoping that by 2020, the Overwatch League has it all figured out. They have enough teams in different parts of the world where they can go, okay, you guys can just play each other, and not have to worry about a lot of travel time and a bunch of other hiccups. With some maybe like ocean crossing, but hopefully places like Europe, because Europe only has Paris and London, I believe.
I believe so.
So they would, I would say, at least need like Barcelona, Berlin, or like Munich. Maybe another team in England or the United Kingdom. Just I'd say at least like 2 to 4 other European teams to really make the Overwatch League have some European teams, so it's not just you have 2 teams, so you have to kind of pick a side.
Yeah. I mean, at least we're not inside the Pacific division. The furthest we'd be going is Houston, which is eight time zone. No, I believe it's 5 from the Eastern to England, so it would be 7 time zones. While if you're in the Pacific division, you could be flying from Dallas all the way to Shanghai or Seoul, which is more than that. That's a long ass flight.
Yeah,
On top
exactly.
of all the other stuff. So I like that they're ambitious about it. Like, I guess if you're gonna go big, you might as well.
Yeah, hopefully they have it all figured out.
Yeah, I'm just skeptical, just due to the fact that it's not cheap to do all that traveling either. So
Yeah, for sure.
but that is still a while away. We can discuss that more when we have more specifics from the league also.
Yeah.
Once that's all set up.
But let's move on to finally talking about League of Legends, and we have a lot to talk about, so we should probably get right to it. We should probably talk about the Academy games first, and that, I mean, the whole C9 versus TSM weekend was pretty disappointing, but I was surprised at just the dip in play from the Academy squad, because Blabber and Golden Glue especially, I think, they were supposed to be kind of our anchors in terms of quality play, and it was just not there.
I actually did not see any of it, just due to the fact I was traveling to Minneapolis on Thursday, and then I was busy on
I see.
Friday. Yeah, so I
Well,
actually did not see any of it, and I didn't have enough time to watch both replays because the actual TSM Cloud9 game went five long
okay.
games.
Well, that's okay.
Yes. So you teach me.
So there's not a lot to talk about. Really, the biggest issue with the matches was that C9, I believe they won the first game, but then the other games they just lost because they would just overextend fights. Like Blabber would just go in and then he would kill himself, or Golden Glue would go in and kill himself. So the team, like Blabber and Golden Glue, were really underperforming, and it was really hurting our team. And TSM just kind of beat us when we probably could have won if we weren't, playing like clods the whole time.
Yeah, that was my understanding of it too.
Yeah,
But again, I didn't see it, unfortunately. I'm sorry, guys.
there's not much to talk about in that game. That was pretty much just Blabber and I think to a lesser degree Golden Glues trying to be like really over aggressive and trying to be like, oh, we're LCS caliber players. I think they didn't respect TSM Academy enough, so they just kind of did a lot of stupid plays throughout that series, and it just, yeah.
Yeah, and then you kind of have to ask, like, how many LCS teams are going to be looking to pick players from both of these teams? Like Cloud9's been, Cloud9 Academy's been like the hot shots all year, but this TSM team is actually pretty good. I believe they beat us once or twice in the Academy regular season too. So it's not like they're just haphazardly thrown together team.
Yeah, I don't think that one series really indicates like the skill of our players at least, but I definitely see Kumo, Blabber, and maybe even Goldblue just getting picked because they're fairly good performing players, as well as if you pick them up, you can maybe use, and shuffle things around to open up for like import slots or what have you. And I think like I think 100 Thieves is looking for a mid laner since they kicked out Huhi. So like I could see them legit just picking up Golden Glue if they wanted a good, probably not very expensive mid laner.
I mean, it would make sense. It would also make sense for a CLG to go for Kumo and have him play on and off with our Darshan.
Oh, for
Have
sure.
him
I think they've
learn for like a split.
I think they've become like way too over reliant on Darshan's like play.
Mediocreness.
Yeah, like they've had him for so long, but like his playstyle of just kind of like split pushing, and not really being, I think, as like involved in terms of like team play, maybe as like other top laners. Like if you look at Licorice or Someday or Broken Blade or Impact, for example, they're much more involved with the macro play and like being more involved with the team. And I think that maybe Darshan is more just too lane focused or something. I don't know. I could be just making up all of this, but I think they definitely need to reevaluate Darshan's position. I mean, he's been on the team for forever, and he has not really been pulling his weight in terms of the results that they've been getting for a little while now.
Yes, so that would be an interesting landing place, but that's probably a conversation for our next show in 2 weeks.
Right.
Overlooking the split and talking about how the academy plays out with LCS teams, because we might even have more news by then. So let's hold on to that.
Right.
I guess we can talk about game 1 and game 2 first, because that is where most of the stuff went right.
I mean, yeah.
I did really like our drafts are relative to TSMs. What I thought was super interesting was how we had such high priority for Gangplank.
Yeah, Gangplank was something we picked a lot. I think it's a good pick because you can kind of, even if you're in a bad matchup with Kleptomancy, I'm not sure if Licorice ran with that or Grasp. I think it depends on the matchup, but if you run,
because it was into Jace both times, I think.
Right. So Kleptomancy is good because you can get a gold advantage over time, as well as he has that global ultimate that you can use for team fighting.
Oh yeah, and we did a good job drafting junglers who would have a priority over TSMs, so we were able to protect him a little bit. So that helped. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. The in game 1 with the Sona Taric lane, that was incredibly dirty with how much damage that Sneaky was actually able to put out. I was actually surprised at how well it worked until it happened, and then it was just like, oh wow.
It's been like a cheese thing in solo queue. So like, I guess I'm not too surprised they pulled it out, but I kind of was, just due to the fact that it was such a high profile game, and then they kind of threw all of the cheese into one a basket by picking the Sona Taric bot lane plus the Hecarim jungle. Then they kind of just forgot about that jungle.
Yeah, they what bugs me is because they had really good success on Hecarim and Rek'Sai, right?
Yeah.
And the Jarvan pick did not, Jarvan has not looked good in my opinion for this little while now, so I'm not sure why people are still picking Jarvan. Except maybe it's like an initiation tool, but other than that, like he just doesn't seem to do as good as some of the other junglers that are available.
Yeah, he's not like a Rek'Sai tier, but he is good. Good mobility, good clear. He can build tanky and damage. So I don't have a problem with that. Hecarim is a little bit more gold reliant than um Arexai and Jarvan are, so it was an interesting thing to do. I'm kind of surprised that it never came back out just because TSM never banned it.
Yeah, they ended up banning more stuff towards. There's lots of
Taric.
like mid lane bans and like support bans and stuff.
It looks like
Um,
they were banning Taric and Kindred most.
yeah, but my biggest
Yeah.
issue was how our play completely devolved just between match 2 and match 3. Like match
Well,
3, I think we just got really cute with trying to do something because it's like, okay, match 3, let's do like a Jinx 1v9 comp, even though they have so many tools to dive and blow up the Jinx, and we have tools to keep Sneaky safe, but no one is really able to keep anyone diving off of other people. It just felt like it was really a cocky move, and no one had an answer for the Akali or the Ezreal.
um, I don't know if that's totally fair, just because of the fact if Bjergsen dives in on Akali, we have the Tom Kench to save Jinx, and then we have a Gangplank to just blow her up immediately. I
Well,
do
that
think.
never happened though. We never utilized that. It was
Well,
always
there were a couple things that made us break down a little bit.
a lot of the. I will say a lot of the Tom Kench eat Zillion ult combinations were like completely off timed. So like
Yeah, that
Sneaky would
that was
always be eaten
what
with Zillion
the
ult.
breakdown was. Yeah, and the main thing I want to talk about with that game was first off the fact that we should not have been in that game first of all, and then once we got back into the game, there's no reason we should have lost that game because after we got that first Baron and we ran on bot lane, um, Bjergsen ran in and placed a control ward to the red side tribe rush, which allowed him that big flank that and ended with them winning that fight, which we still should have won the game after that in any way. But what happened was 3 guys walked right past that tribe rush. They even pinged it, saying, "Hey, there might be something in there," and nobody looked at it once.
I think
Which it
that was
happens.
a
It happens.
I think that was a big theme for this, like basically the whole series. After like for the majority of this series was just C9 did not check flanks, and they just didn't seem to care that someone could come around from behind them or something. And
Yeah,
then someone does, and then it's like, oh holy shit, maybe you guys should pay attention to like surroundings more.
yeah, and it was just weird because everybody walked past that brush. They had a vision on a control ward in that brush. Bjergsen replaced a ward somewhere else, so they would have seen it go away, I think. But then he went back in there. I think he showed up on the map to push a wave too, so they knew he was over there, and nobody looked at
Yeah,
that brush. But and then at the ensuing fight where Bjergsen did TP over with Akali was one of the huge breakdowns in team and mechanical play when Zillion alted the Jinx, and then Zazel devoured the Jinx
right.
at the same time, meaning that they didn't have the Zillion alt or devour for when a Bjergsen actually dived in, and that's what lost them that fight. So
Right. And when I saw that, it pains me to say, I thought when I saw that, I went, if we had Jensen, that wouldn't have happened. Because Jensen Zillion has always been clean, and he's always been really good at timing such things, you know? Like,
it's
anytime that.
it's a teamwork thing. Zazel and Niski should have talked about it beforehand. They should have.
Exactly.
Hey, if this happens, you all or you Devour first, and it doesn't sound like, or it obviously doesn't look like that happened.
Exactly.
Because that was our fight to win. Sneaky played it perfectly. It was just the breakdown between Tom Kench and Zillian that killed that fight.
Exactly.
And I will say that Nitsky did not look all that comfortable on it, which was, I guess, not weird because we haven't seen him pull it out all split, I don't think.
Yeah, we haven't seen him pull out a lot of champions. I'm not. His champion pool is in a weird spot where like he looks good on some assassins and some supportive mid laners and some control mages, but on others he looks less comfortable. So it's weird.
Yeah, moving on to game 4, that was kind of just a wash.
When I saw the Zed pick, I immediately gave up and quit watching that match for that game.
It's good now, but
so people say Zed counters Zoe, and I can agree with that. I'm not going to argue with that, but I think the key is that you have to get the Zed rolling early for him to be a threat, and we did not do that at all in the early game. So you kind of just have a squishy ninja that, like, yeah, he can go in, but he's going to probably die immediately. You know, so he can't really do anything at all and be an assassin since he hasn't gotten rolling. And you know, just looking at the KDA, you can tell because Niski's 0-3-3 versus Bjergsen's 2-0-8. Acadian was 8-1-6 on Rek'Sai, which was doing good all series, versus Svenskern's Jarvan, which Jarvan was just looking like a trash champion. He was at 1-5-3. So I think that I was not at all excited about the Zed pick, and it kind of turned out like I expected it to turn out.
I don't really have a feeling about it particularly. I thought it was kind of weird to pull it out when they did. I thought the bigger problem was that they gave TSM a counter pick, and that if they had picked it on red side, knowing that they weren't going to be able to pick a giant tank, that it would have fit in a lot better. Saying that, I also don't think that Licorice looked all that comfortable on Rise either. And even Faker called him out after the game.
That was the other thing that really puzzled me. So in game 3, C9 went with like a team comp that did not have a lot of damage outside of like Jinx and probably Gangplank. So I guess they looked at that game and went like, oh, the problem is we didn't have enough damage. So then they went to like, just fuck it, we're gonna put all the damage. So they, you know, they're playing Rise and Zed and Lucian, trying to like out damage them, but then they have like really good frontline tools to stop that. So it's kind of like their thinking just completely broke down after game 3 because they were too overconfident.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm okay with the draft. I don't love it or
I am speaking also out of a place of anger. I should also say this now.
I know. I mean, I don't know. I don't hate the draft. I can see why you would do it, because you can maybe cheese another game out of it. But I think the execution on it was questionable, and I maybe the bans were questionable also. Sven, I was playing awesome on Ezreal, and if you wanted to take something out, that might have been a good thing to ban.
Exactly, but they I think they were kind of stuck because you have to ban Lissandra because Lissandra's really, really strong, and you don't want to deal with her ultimate and how she can stall out fights. You have to ban out Kayle because Kayle is also super strong, and you don't want her to take control of late game. You have to ban. I can understand banning the Jace because his poke was really, really strong, and they got destroyed in game 3 by it.
No.
But then Jace that leaves the Aurelia. That leaves Aurelia, which like I don't understand why they're banning Aurelia.
They banned Lissandra, Kali, Aurelia in the first round, so they actually could have picked Kayle. So they didn't take the Kayle. They probably should have banned Ezreal and not Aurelia, because Nissi can probably play into it because he plays her all the time on stream. So I think it was I don't think that was why we lost specifically, but I think it would have helped going into game 5 when Sven got his Ezreal again.
Yeah.
So the game 5 draft, I guess, I actually kind of like it.
So
I do
the
like
game
Silvercomps.
5. I'm sorry, you go ahead.
I like our draft in this instance. I do like the TSM draft also just due to the fact that if you can take out Sneaky, then you just win. And if you have the Kindred, the Vladimir to flank, and then a Bjergsen on Zillion for the short range is Sivir, then I think you're in pretty good shape. I think one of the bigger things might have been leaving a Braum if you wanted to pick the Ornn, but that's negligible.
I think they
I
had
kind
to
of like
go
the
with.
draft.
I think they had to go with Alistar because they picked TSM picked Kindred, so you need at least one person to punt someone out of Kindred's ult.
Yeah, that's true.
And you kind of also have that with Ornn. Like I really like C9's draft. You have a nice tanky top laner. You have some additional engaging crowd control with Alistar. Sven looked really good in Rek'Sai, and you have someone that can really like dive people. Niski's Zoe can just chunk people out. Like you don't even have to kill people with Zoe. As long as you can chunk people out effectively, they're out of the fight. And Sneaky can just be a farm machine and do a lot of damage to everyone in a fight through Sivir. So it looked really good, but we kind of had this theme of like breakdowns in communication because I hate to say it, Zazel kind of single-handedly lost us the game with how he was positioning that game.
Yeah, and it was either him thing or a team thing, and I have to lean on more of the team, but there were a few questionable things that he did that causes
He was too far forward in like a couple of fights one after another where like he was running towards TSM where the rest of C9 is like trying to come up behind him, but they're way too far away. And like he shouldn't be that far forward. And he just kills himself and it's like, well, they get Baron now. Thanks a lot, Zazel. And then it just got too out of control from there. And they lost. C9 I think once again in a playoff scenario kind of choked, and I guess we can talk about sort of C9 and playoffs overall because they have not built up a pretty good equity of them succeeding. It has always been kind of them choking in one scenario or another and not looking very good in domestic playoff situations.
I don't know if that's totally fair, but obviously they've always been in the semifinals or finals for the most part, and they just haven't been able to cross the finish line, which I
mean that is a problem though. Crossing the finish line is a problem though.
Have they ever been the favorite to win it in any of these playoffs though? I can't think of one.
I don't think either. I think maybe the closest was probably when Jensen was on the team.
5? Yeah.
Yes. But I think that's
the Echo game.
Yes, I think there's still this issue of whatever happens to C9, they kind of break down in the playoffs. So either it's because they get really close to winning, like they did here, and they blew a 2-0 lead, or if it gets to like, finals past where they're just one or two plays away from maybe doing something really good and then just flub it or what. But their record, it just hasn't been good, and I think it's getting really frustrating for a lot of fans, maybe a little bit myself included, that they get really close and they look really good, but then they just completely do a 180 and just play bad for the rest of the series and end up losing.
I don't think that's entirely true either. Obviously the team hasn't been able to cross the finish line, but they're always there. I don't think they've ever been favorites to win at all, and quite a few of the playoffs they've ran into complete juggernauts. Team Liquid's a couple times, TSM a couple times, and even if they had won this game, there is a good chance that they would have gotten demolished against Team Liquid in anyway, and then people would be talking about them choking and all this other stuff. But don't forget that this is also the same team that went to semifinals at at, at Worlds last year. Like, did they choke there? Did they choke against Vitality in the groups stage when they had to win to move on? Did they choke against a Freak of Freaks? No, they just ran up into a really good Fnatic, team. So it's not like this team is just like coming in as like the Virginia team playing a 16 seed and getting beat by 20 points. Like, they're running into like the top team in the West at some point. So I'm less into that take. I think that they just aren't the best domestic team, and that's just kind of what they are, and they haven't done enough to build up to be better, whether that's roster things or coaching things or what.
I think that's the thing that bothers me, is that we look so great internationally, and we are always vaunted as this great international team, but when it comes to being good domestically, we always fall short in these scenarios. And I think that's what's upsetting to me, is that I just wanted to at least win like one domestic championship, just to show that, you know, Cloud9 can be just as good domestically as they can internationally, but it seems like they always come up short somewhere and they can't cross that finish line, and that really irritates me. That, you know, they're like this, and I think it just kind of, it wears on you a bit that this always seems to happen. And I think that I'm also a bit more upset with how we lost this most recent series, and it has me looking more cynical, because you don't just blow a 2-0 lead, and especially you don't blow it like they did. You know, you had that series, and that was your choice to basically do the things that you did and then lose it. And I think that I'm really upset about that, because they should have won, but with, I don't know if they were being cocky, I don't know if they panicked or what, but their decisions caused them to throw what should have been a 3-0 series. And I think that's got me upset the most about all this. And not just their record withstanding of playoff success or lack thereof. It's most recently it hurts the most because of just how they have foibled it.
I think we knew that this was going to be a really close matchup going into it, though. And I mean, I'm most upset about Game 3 because that is a game that we should have won, but that's also a game that we also should have lost before we got into the position to almost win it. So, I mean, if TSM hadn't floundered early on, or would we be saying the same thing about Game 3? I mean, not really, I don't think. I think that we knew this TSM team was good. They were hot. They were the favorites coming in, actually. So I don't think it's totally fair to just say that we choked, because, like, what are we going to do to make a better roster next split then? Are we going to get a different coach? Are we going to get a new mid laner or support or something?
I mean, I don't see any sort of changes. I think it's just they need to just maybe be better and use their heads more. You know, I think this series was like a real breakdown in the mental game, and well, and we've said on the show just in regular series and stuff that Reaper will have these great drafts, but then he'll also have these really bad drafts where we're kind of like, I don't know what he was thinking with that. You know, his drafts have been kind of a double-edged sword, and I think he just needs to, at least him and the team need to work on lessening that, and I think just playing smarter. I don't know. I don't really have much else to say on this. I feel like we'll just be going around in circles.
Yeah, there was a highly upvoted post in the Cloud9's subreddit saying that Cloud9 is 1-5 in matches in the last 4 playoffs with a game score of 6-14. They cherry picked the last 4 playoff matchups. It looks like. I actually hate this take. So, do you have anything specific to add about it?
Not really. I can't think of anything.
Okay. I just think it's a really bad take because we know that playoffs are hard because if winning a championship was easy, we do it every year. The Patriots would win a Super Bowl every year. Saban would win the playoffs every year with Alabama.
He would have won. He would have won this year if he wasn't such a clod frozen.
See, it's hard in making in-game.
No, it's
decisions.
easy. It's not being a clod that's hard.
And these in-game decisions are tough to make. Like it's obvious 2, 3, 4 days after the fact, after you've slept on it, but like doing this stuff in high pressure environments is difficult. And even though we haven't seen the success, like the fact that we haven't won a championship should mean that we have a negative game score. But the fact that almost all of these are semifinals and finals losses is kind of a big deal. Like, I wonder how many teams have a better a record or game score even in the last 4 years, because even if our score is not ideal, we're still getting to the point where we make playoffs every split, and that if it was easy to win a championship, then we wouldn't have this game score. But playoffs is hard, or winning games is hard, and you can't expect this team to win every game when all the stakes are on the line. And yeah, it does suck, but like, what are we gonna do? Like, we've come a long way, and I feel like that we do that we do still have a lot to learn, and I think that this team can do it, because Reaper was talking at the beginning of the split of how Niski still had a lot to learn. Well, he's not the only one. Licorice got solo killed in a extremely weird fashion at one point. Sneaky died a couple times like an idiot.
Sneaky always does that.
Had a couple. Yeah, Azazel had a couple bad plays. Niski wasn't that hot all of the time. I actually do think Sven played pretty well, all things considered.
Yeah, Sven. I think I'm amazed that Sven has become. To talk positively about the team, and I guess I should apologize for trashing them so hard, but to Sven's credit, especially coming in to like, he was pretty much like TSM fans' whooping boy, because anytime TSM kind of fucked up and lost, it was usually at his hands and at his
yeah, they blamed him.
They blamed him a lot, but like he's come from looking like kind of like a word in the jungle to he is a big reason why we win a lot of the time, like, period.
Oh yeah, I agree, and I was probably the biggest opponent of signing him too. So he's done more than proven me wrong. So I think that this roster does have potential to be good. I just don't know how good.
I think they can be good, and I think they can be better. I think it's an issue of getting rid of maybe some habits that are ingrained, like sneakies, for instance. Him kind of randomly dying sometimes is something that he's had for a while, and I think it's an issue of breaking old habits, as well as how willing is the team to like really work on stuff, right? Like how willing are they to really improve and put the time in and all that. So I think that I'm every time we go into playoffs, I'm optimistic, but then I think I get upset because I see the potential in the team and they don't live up to it, and they're not as successful as I'd like them to be, and I think that that's what a lot of fans are kind of at odds with.
Well, yeah. It's not easy to win a championship, so
Yeah, but
and
anyway,
they should. But yeah,
we've been
and now we're
going back
just
and forth.
going in circles around
Yeah.
me. So
I think
yeah, let's
before
end it.
we end, we should at least pick who we want to win for the finals.
Neither team.
Neither team. Okay, so you're hoping that a meteor comes out of the sky and just
ruins the game but doesn't hurt anybody.
a huge blackout prevents the game from being played.
Yeah.
Um,
what I hope. Although Team Liquid's going to win.
For me, I kind of want TSM to win, and hear me out on why.
Yeah, I know why.
Smoothie has always been one of my favorite players when he was on C9 because he was like the leader. He was really confident. He was really like driven to improve himself. At one point, he was like the best support in North America, and I was so upset when he got robbed for MVP when it should have clearly been him. Bjergsen, he's a nice guy. I don't have any ill will against Bjergsen. But I think it's mostly just I don't like that Jensen left, man. I feel very bitter about that, and I want him to pay for it by not having a trophy in his trophy case, and he has to spend another split of not being the champion.
Yeah, I don't want either team to win. So, unfortunately, that's the position that we're in.
I think some good news, since Team Liquid is in the finals, C9 did get that third spot for Rift Rivals.
Yeah, that's true.
Whoever cares about Rift Rivals, even though it's kind of a pointless event.
It's fun.
It's fun. No, yeah, it's fun.
Just talking shit.
Yeah, exactly. We'll at least have some content, I think. When is Rift Rivals? Is it between spring and summer, or?
MSI is between spring and summer for sure.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Look. So,
I think last year's
it was.
I think last year they did a. Yeah. Last year they did a goofy thing where it was during a split.
Yeah, so we'll have to see, but yeah, we're going to that. Also, I don't think we're gonna record next week just because there's gonna be no new news.
Yeah.
Is that fine?
Well, there'll be some match results, but we may hold off on the week after. It depends on how active stuff is.
Yeah, most likely we're going to hold off next week.
Yeah.
And we'll come back after finals, refreshed with a breakdown of the past split and what we're hoping for in the future.
Yep.
All right. I think that's about it.
Yeah. Thank you for listening to this angsty and emotionally raw episode of Bodied, the Cloud9 Fancast.
And long.
Yeah. Always, you can follow us on Twitter at C9Bodied. Make sure to tune in every week. We talk about Cloud9 stuff. So, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you later.
Bye, guys.